Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Lauder Impact, a series of interviews with Lauder alumni that are driving impact around the globe. I am Lucas de Carvalho, your host for today, and part of the Italian track in the Lauder class of 2026. Our first guest for the first episode of the series is Tom Bendheim. Tom graduated from Wharton and Lauder in 1990, where he was part of the Spanish track. He's the founder and CEO of B7 Properties, a real estate development and investment company that focuses on multifamily properties. He has also served for more than 20 years in the Lauder Institute's Board of Governors. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Lucas. It's good to be with you here today, and I really appreciate you inviting me to do this.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming. Tom, you graduated from Lauder in 1990. Could you tell us a bit about the career path you've followed since graduation?
Well, I could take all day to do that because it's been a few years behind me here, but I'll do it briefly. I started out before coming to Wharton and Lauder as a consultant with Bain & Company, an associate consultant out of their Boston office. When I graduated from Wharton and Lauder, I continued on in consulting at McKinsey & Company because it was easier to join McKinsey and work at different places around the world compared to Bain at that time. And I also focused on the consumer and retail sectors, which were particular areas of interest to me. I always knew, though, even though I spent 5+ years in consulting, I wanted to move into operating roles like many of the Lauder graduates. And so I ended up both at smaller and mid-sized companies in roles such as director of marketing, VP of marketing. I became a CEO and then ultimately a CEO, and served some time as a CEO of both more of a startup type business and even a mid-sized company, about 100 million in sales with 500 employees. I think one of the things I'm most proud of, was that I did a turnaround for a branded leather goods company, and that went very, very well. And then I also spent some time trying to revive an old beer company. That one was more challenging, but I learned a lot. And then I worked as a CEO of a jewelry and accessories company that was acquired by 3 private equity firms. About 10 years ago, I started B7 Properties, which is my current business. It's as you said, a real estate investment, development, and management company, and we focus on the multifamily segment, so all rental properties. I had a bit of a background in real estate, even going as far back as my Bain days. But in the last 10 years, we've really grown the business. We've done 25 deals. We have 1,200 rental units at 18 properties right now. We've sold 7 properties, and we're in 10 states. And I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, that's an impressive journey. Thank you for sharing it with us, Tom. Beer, jewelry, real estate, you've been everywhere. That's super nice. And looking back at your career, what pivotal moments, decisions, or people have had the greatest impact on your journey?
Yeah, you're going to think this answer might be funny, but I'm going to be very candid. It actually, there was a time when I was in transition and I was seeing a therapist, and my therapist was asking me to talk about different things in my career and things I enjoyed doing. And he turned to me and said, "When you talk about real estate, I hear the passion in your voice in a way that I don't hear that passion when you talk about other things you've done or other things you might be interested in." So it was so obvious to him. And then it was my Lauder roommate, who's one of my closest friends, and my brother, who both said, real estate is where you should be. You enjoy it, you're good at it. I actually was doing it kind of as a side hobby and had a good track record for myself as an investor. And so a little over 10 years ago, I made the switch to do it full time.
Oh, that's so much valuable insight there, like passion, passion, passion. It's very interesting. And leveraging this experience, this passion, what advice would you give specifically to those currently in the real estate industry or looking to enter it?
Well, first of all, I think there are a number of sectors in the industry, right? We all probably know about how the office sector is having its challenges. The retail sector has had quite a few challenges as well. I think it's important in anything you go to and do for a career to to focus on an area that has some tailwinds. So as good as I might be, I'm in the multifamily sector, which has been very, very successful for reasons of supply demand imbalance. And the prognosis is that it will continue to be a very successful segment. It's probably the leading segment in addition to industrial in the real estate industry right now. So that would be one thing I would say. The other thing in real estate is I would say do it yourself, meaning try doing it in a small way. Maybe it's something like buying a two-family or a four-family where you have to rent out one of the units. So you learn basically the skills that are required as we now have much larger properties, many more units. I did this myself, so I understood and understand what our property managers are going through, to some extent, what our maintenance people are going through. So I think I'm a more effective leader in this business because I've done these roles myself early on.
Fantastic. That's great advice. Uh, an entrepreneur mindset and a tailwind. That's super interesting. And now, more broadly, based on the lessons and experiences you've had from your time at McKinsey to founding your own firm, what can you share with all our alumni and current students on building a meaningful and successful career?
Well, look, I have to assume that the way I was when I was at Lauder is similar to many of the students there today who really spend a lot of time trying to come up with a long-term plan and stick to that plan. And I think what I would say is it's not like that's a useless exercise, but I can almost guarantee all of you, any of the students, there are going to be a lot of twists and turns. I can almost say you'll never follow that plan to a T. Take some risks. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be too concerned that you're going off of that plan because I think ultimately, like I did, you'll find your place. I think most importantly, and this may sound a little trite, and many of you have heard this before, figure out what you like to do during a work day. And that's different than saying, I want to be in private equity, right? So even if you were in, let's say, private equity, what aspect of the day-to-day job do you enjoy the most or would you enjoy the most? So I love deal negotiation. So I found a career where I do a lot of that. I'm buying, I'm selling, but that's something I really enjoy doing during the day. So my point is find something that you really enjoy doing, maybe not worry as much about the industry. And if you enjoy doing it, most likely you're very good at it. And if you're good at it, you will most likely succeed and you will be happy. I think looking back for me, well, I can say that to graduates, I was very focused on title, pay, prestige, and probably too focused on that early on because at the end of the day, it's do something you enjoy that you're good at. Of course, many of us want to make money, but find areas that are lucrative, but do what you enjoy.
Thank you for that, Tom. And building on what you said, uh, I've heard that careers are always a moving target and our priorities evolve as we become wiser. How has your definition of success and impact changed since you're graduating from Lauder?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Early on, to me, again, it's easy for me to admit this and see this now. It was really about money, title, and prestige as I looked at business opportunities. And now I would say it's much more about having impact, enjoying what I do, having good work-life balance. And by the way, my business now is making more money than I made at any of the other roles or jobs that I was at. I also have time. I mentioned work-life balance. I serve on 4 nonprofit boards and are very active in several of them. That's my way of giving back and putting my skills to work. I really get a lot of satisfaction out of that. In fact, I'm working with one small nonprofit now, and it looks like I was able to keep their nonprofit alive in my state of Rhode Island by helping them to get $1 million in support from a local foundation. So those are the kinds of things that really inspire me now. But also in my current real estate business, one of the things that brings me the greatest satisfaction is seeing those who work for me learn and grow and succeed financially, build their skills, and whether those skills are applied, to our business, hopefully for a very long time, or even if they move on and start working for another business, it's nice to see that I've helped them build or our business has helped them to build those skills.
Oh, that's fantastic. Always driving impact, right? Very insightful. And well, to wrap up the interview, let's do a quick fire round. Uh, are you
Good.
ready?
Yes, ready.
Okay, let's go. What's one thing you'd tell your younger self?
Well, it relates to what I said earlier. I would say to my younger self to do what I enjoy, do what I think I'm good at, focus on other personal considerations like flexibility. That was always a high priority for me, not being glued to my desk. One of the things I love now about my job is I'm moving around a lot. And most likely I would have gone into real estate sooner.
Perfect. If you could master one new skill instantly, what would it be?
Sales. So don't underestimate how important sales is. And my motto now is that no is the first step in getting to yes.
Perfect. We are always selling, right? What's a book you've read recently that you would recommend?
I really liked this book, Empire of Pain by Patrick Keefe. It's the history of the Sackler family. And what it really teaches you sort of firsthand by reading it is that greed and power can really blind you as a business person and cause you to go over the ethical line in business, if not the legal line. So I found it very illuminating.
And how would you describe Lauder alumni in one word?
Family.
Amazing.
I look at Lauder as one large family all around the world that, like brothers and sisters. I can call them, I can go see them, and that doesn't mean just alums who are in my class. They could be alums I've never met before.
That's the true Lauder love. Amazing. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lucas. I enjoyed it.